Okay. Hi, Mrs. Jahner. Welcome. And thank you for doing this. So first, I wanted to just start out with asking you how you're connected to Boston Harbor Elementary School.
Sure, I'd love Boston Harbor. So first of all, I am Dahlia and Daniel's mom. So I am a Boston Harbor parent. And I'm also connected to Boston Harbor because I substitute taught at Boston Harbor for a couple of years, including kindergarten for a little while Miss Levinsky had her baby. So I've also been an artist in residence at Boston Harbor twice, both at the preschool before it left, and then again for the whole school.
Wonderful. Okay. And so you tell us a little bit about it's sort of a dual thing because you have a passion for and a hobby about pottery and ceramics, and then you also have your profession surrounds that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my background is primarily in ceramics and then also a little bit of entrepreneurship and business. So I went to school for a bachelor's of fine arts in studio art in ceramics. I got a 4-year degree in university and then also art education, and then recently finished a master's degree in art education. And I've done everything from running my own studio pottery to running like a paint your own pottery type business to teaching lessons. I've taught for Olympia Parks and Rec, and currently I teach pottery at Olympia High School. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. And let's see, how did you become interested in this work?
Oh, well, I took a ceramics class my senior year of high school, and I actually really disliked it for the first couple of months I took it. And but I had a really fabulous teacher, and he came up with some great accommodations for me that helped make the class a lot more enjoyable. And then I totally kind of fell in love. And I think I'm one of the only people ever on the face of the planet that went to college at the age of 18, and I never changed my major. I went in knowing I wanted to study ceramics, and that's what I'm doing.
All right. What made you not like it at first?
So I had a spinal fusion my junior year of high school. I'm fused from T2 to L4 for treatment for scoliosis, and I had sections removed out of 10 of my ribs. And so I went to school about 4 weeks after having that surgery, and I had ceramics sixth period at the end of the day, and we had to sit on stools. And it really hurt my back to have to sit up that long and not have something to lean against. And when we had to throw on the potter's wheel, it really hurt to try to like lean forward like that. But my teacher was really great. He came up with a way to put like bricks underneath the wheel and raise it up and come up with some physical accommodations for me to make the class not painful. And so him taking the time to find a way to meet me where I was at was really what made the difference.
Wow. And is this some of your work behind you?
Yeah, there's some. I have this. This is part of my cup collection, and I have cups from all over. I have this is one from a show. Well, there's two of them stacked on top of each other from my show I did. That was it was a ceramic library. So each of those cups has a barcode, and people actually check the work out from the show to take it home and use it and bring it back. I have cups from friends in college, cups from artists I admire. I have a cup from that high school teacher. This one right here, the little face. So yeah, and I just collect samples I can use in my teaching to show my students as we study new processes and techniques.
Right. Okay. So we have been talking at school about the engineering design process and how people solve problems and come up with different ways to approach it. And maybe they test it out and rework it and redesign. And so how does that come up with your work?
We use we call that engineering process design thinking, and like at least in the way that I teach. And there's also some product development also that kind of comes into that. So the first way that I use it is in the problem solving that goes into creating functional ceramics. So like for instance, teapots are a really great example, or anything that pours, because you have to figure out where the center of gravity is and where to put the handle so that you can lift it, but but it'll tip nicely, and how to make a spout so it doesn't drip. So those types of things, there's a lot of just we try things and it doesn't work, you try something else, maybe that doesn't work, and it forces you to kind of learn from your failures. And the other way we use that is in product development for pieces. So we follow design thinking in trying to create user-centered design, where instead of just creating like cups and mugs and learning how to sell them to people, we try to empathize with the people that might be seeking out to purchase something and see how we can meet a need through understanding and being that insight. And then we follow a process of rapid prototyping, or trying out lots of different ideas one after another, and trying to test a product to see how people respond to it. And then after we get that information, we can redesign the product to better meet the need. And sometimes we have to go all the way back in the beginning of our process and redefine what the problem is or the need that we're trying to meet.
Mhm. Interesting. Okay. And so what's the best part of your work for you? What do you enjoy the most?
As an artist, my favorite part of the work is when I get to open a kiln, because you think that after a lot of years that you kind of get used to it, but every time it's still like Christmas morning. And so even at home, like if I know that I fired a kiln at night, the next morning when I wake up, the first thing I think about is I get to open the kiln today. So I love seeing, I love the process of seeing how things turn out, experiments turn out. And I think as a teacher, my favorite part is creating community within our studio and within our classroom, and finding a way to use art to connect people to each other, whether that's like by being friends and making things together, or connecting people even to complete strangers by learning how to meet a need or provide a service for them through the objects they make.
Wonderful. And you, for kids who don't know what a kiln is, could you just briefly explain that? Just in case they
Absolutely.
haven't ever done that process before?
Yeah. Yeah, so a kiln is kind of like a giant oven that cooks clay and makes it hard. So clay comes from the ground and it's squishy and moldable. And then once we put it into a kiln and we heat it up and bake it, it changes from clay into ceramic. And then it becomes durable, like the stuff that you can use at your house.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about in high school, were there things that you studied in school, even in elementary school, maybe that helped with your work later on?
Yeah, I think some of the best experiences I had in elementary school were some of the like different art experiences that I got to have. I had a teacher, we didn't have any funding for arts programs where I went to school, but I had a teacher who bought nice drawing pencils and erasers and watercolors for us. And we would get to, on Fridays, we'd get extra time to practice our figure drawing, and she'd pick one student to be a model and sit in a chair and we'd all take turns. And art is full of problem solving, because, a lot of times you learn to draw a person, it can be really difficult and you might not get the head the right size, or the arm might be longer than, the other one. And so constantly being able to go back and solve that problem and not get discouraged or angry at the drawing, but just to keep at it, that's really helped a lot, because I find myself having to continually think about what I'm doing and notice what's happening and then go back and change it without getting angry about it.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or that covers my questions that I had for you? So.
Yeah. I'd say one thing I think is interesting about the design process is how much you can take something from one subject and move it to another. A lot of things I've learned from design come from like a product development at Stanford University, and they look at creating objects, like how to create toys for kids. And so, and I know my husband uses a lot of design thinking in helping come up with foods and solve problems with food. And so it's kind of neat to see how no matter what you're interested in, if it's like Lego building and bridge building and engineering, or it's pottery or ceramics or even writing, all those things share common skills, and that anything you learn is never ever wasted. Your learning is always valuable and can always be used in a new way.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Jahner. I'll turn this
Yeah.
off here, okay?